If you don't know, the Middle East has a major sweet tooth. Most of our desserts are cooked, then they're covered in loads of syrup, and few are as popular and exclusive as Qatayef. You see, they're pretty much only made during the month of Ramadan, and it's rare to find Qatayef that aren't overly sweet or too crispy. They're essentially pancakes that are filled with cream or nuts, then they're folded and fried. The good news is it's quite easy to make perfectly delicious Qatayef at home. So today I'll show you how to make the Qatayef and stuff them, then I'll show you how to serve fried and raw Qatayef. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you want to learn more about Middle Eastern cuisine. Now let's get started. First thing we'll do is make the Qatayef pancakes themselves. You can use any kind of blender, food processor or whisk to put the batter together, and you'll start by adding in 200 grams or 7 ounces of all-purpose flour. Follow that up with 60 grams or 2.1 ounces of fine semolina, as well as 1.5 tablespoons of sugar. Next, add 1 tablespoon of powdered milk, half a teaspoon each of baking powder and baking soda, and lastly half a teaspoon of instant yeast. The last thing you'll add is 475 milliliters or 16 fluid ounces of warm water. Make sure your water is neither hot nor cold, otherwise the yeast might struggle to bloom. Now just blend everything together really well, and don't forget to scrape down the sides of your mixing vessel. Once it was well blended, I transferred this into a bowl, and you can see just how runny and smooth the texture of this batter should be. Let the batter rest in a warm part of your kitchen for about 10 to 15 minutes, or as long as it takes for the yeast to start foaming. You'll know the batter is ready for use when you get a light and bubbly foam on the surface of the batter. If this doesn't happen, there could be 2 causes. Either your yeast has expired and died, or the water was too hot or cold. To cook the batter, place a non-stick pan on the stove over medium heat. Once it has fully heated, add in 1 tablespoon or 15 milliliters of batter. Using a measuring spoon or ice cream scoop will ensure you get a consistent size across all the pancakes. Cook it for about 90 seconds or until the top of the pancake turns dry. I'd recommend making a couple of practice Qatayef just so you can dial in the right heat. The first ones you make never seem to form enough bubbles, and they always stick to the pan. You'll know you've found the right heat when the batter spreads out really well and it quickly forms lots of air bubbles on the surface. These are key to giving the pancake its texture. They're done once their top surface dries out and there is no more visible wetness on the pancake. Make sure you don't flip these, as they're only supposed to cook on the single side. When done, your Qatayef will have a golden bottom. If you're able to control the heat well enough, you can make multiple pancakes at the same time. Once the pancakes have cooled, you can test them by folding a pancake in half and pressing the 2 sides together between your fingers. You want them to stick together as if they've been glued. If they don't, it's likely that you've overcooked your pancakes. Make sure you remove them just after the surface finishes drying. As the pancakes come off the heat, you should place them on a plate or tray and keep them covered with a kitchen towel. That traps the moisture in there, and if you don't cover them, they might not stick when you go to stuff them. Feel free to overlap the pancakes and they might get a bit of discoloration, but that's perfectly normal. Use them within 4 hours or they'll start to lose their stickiness. We'll be stuffing the Qatayef with 2 different fillings. The first one is going to be a fruit and nut filling with candied hazelnuts, and this is one of my all-time favourite desserts. Take an oven tray and line it with greaseproof paper, then pour on 150 grams or 5¼ ounces of peeled hazelnuts. Spread them out well, then place the tray into an oven set to 180 degrees Celsius or 360 degrees Fahrenheit to roast for 10 to 15 minutes. Take the hazelnuts out of the oven once they've turned a light brown and allow them to cool for about 20 minutes. Once they've cooled, you can chop them up into smaller pieces. This can be done by pulsing them with a food processor or blender, and you basically want to chop them into small chunks that look like this. Place the chopped nuts in a bowl and then add in 50 grams or 1¾ ounces of golden sultanas or raisins. Next, add in 1 tablespoon of desiccated coconut and follow that up with 2 tablespoons of sugar. Next, add half a teaspoon of cinnamon, and the last component is 2 tablespoons of softened butter. Mix it all together really well, and that's all that's needed for the fruit and nut filling. You can play around with this as much as you want and use your favourite nuts or spices, and it should look something like this. The other filling we'll make is a cream filling called ishtar. I covered this in detail in my last video where we talked about how to make samna, ishtar and sharbat. So for the detailed instructions, be sure to check out that video. In a bowl or jug, add 4 tablespoons each of all-purpose flour and corn flour. Then add in 2 teaspoons of sugar and a pinch of salt. Whisk in 350 milliliters or 11¾ fluid ounces of whole milk and 400 milliliters or 13½ fluid ounces of heavy cream. Make sure you get the mixture super smooth, then pour it into a pot over medium-high heat. Cook this for about 8 to 10 minutes, stirring the entire time until it thickens up and looks like a bechamel. Pour it out into a bowl and cover with some plastic wrap, then place it in the fridge to cool for at least 4 to 6 hours. Once it has firmed up, use a stick blender to whip the mixture into a fluffy consistency. When it looks like whipped cream, it's ready to be used. The last thing we'll make before assembling the Qatayef is some sharbat or simple syrup. Once again, I covered this in detail in the last video, so check it out if you want tips on how to flavour this with whole spices. In a pot on the stove, I added in 250 grams or 8 3/4 ounces of sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla powder, half a tablespoon of lemon juice, and 150 milliliters or 5.1 fluid ounces of water. Bring the pot to a boil, then once the sugar has all dissolved, turn the heat down to low and allow it to simmer for 15 minutes. When the time is up, pour it out into a jug and let the syrup cool completely. Now we can get to filling and shaping the Qatayef. Take one of the pancakes and place it in the palm of your hand, then add a tablespoon of the nut filling to it. Fold the pancake over the filling, then pinch the two sides together at the center. Apply a good amount of pressure and they will stick together. Now just go around the entire edge of the pancake, sticking both sides together in the same manner. When done, you should have a complete seal across the whole pancake and it should have a semicircle or crescent shape. It's the same thing for the cream ones, except this time you add about a heaped teaspoon of the ishtar filling. You can spread this out a little to make stuffing easier, but just make sure you don't get any cream on the outer edges where it will be sealed. You should end up with about 36 stuffed Qatayef when done, and these can be cooked right away or frozen and used within 6 months. These are technically already cooked, but it's traditional to take these stuffed Qatayef and fry them. Before doing that, pour your syrup out into a bowl and that will be used for dunking the fried Qatayef in. Fill a pot with about 600 milliliters or 20 fluid ounces of frying oil, so that there's enough oil in the pot to deep fry. Heat the oil to between 170 to 180 degrees Celsius or 340 to 360 degrees Fahrenheit. When the oil is hot enough, add in 3 to 4 pieces of your stuffed Qatayef, and you'll fry these for about 2 minutes. Once they are a deep golden colour and the exterior is crispy and hard, remove them from the oil and place them directly in the syrup. Let them soak for about 15 seconds, then flip the Qatayef over and allow them to soak once more. Make sure they get an even coat of syrup on all sides. Remove them from the syrup and let them drain their excess syrup on a wire rack. Another way to serve Qatayef is to make what's called Qatayef Naya or raw Qatayef. To do that, place your cream mixture in a piping bag and slice off the tip. Take one of the pancakes and seal the two sides together from the midway point. Then pinch the edges together 2/3 of the way around the pancake and make sure to leave a decent sized opening. Put the tip of the piping bag in there and then fill the Qatayef with as much of the cream as you want. You can fill this with any pipeable filling that you can imagine, and the recent craze is to fill them with Nutella or Biscoff spread. I like to decorate these plain cream ones by dipping them in some crushed pistachio. So there you have it, both cooked and raw Qatayef. If you're serving the raw ones, reduce the syrup's cooking time by a few minutes. That will give it a great pourable consistency like this. The cooked ones are best eaten on the same day that they're fried, or you can freeze them and cook them on demand. Now let's check out the taste test. I think good Qatayef are one of those desserts that everyone should know about. It's just such a shame that they're only made during Ramadan. You get a fantastic outer layer which can be made crispy or soft. Then you get a wonderful filling, and let me tell you, the cream one is among the best desserts I've ever had. You can definitely customize the fillings with any flavour you like, and each time you'll end up with a delicious treat. If you make the Qatayef, send us some photos and let us know how they turn out. Don't forget to leave us a like or comment and subscribe if you haven't yet. Thanks to our wonderful patrons for making this video possible, and I'll be back soon with another recipe.